Welcome back to the Oneway Podcast, where we bring together martial artists, instructors, and leaders who are shaping the future of training both on and off the mats. Today, we're honored to sit down with a man whose resume reads like a blueprint for what it means to be a true protector. Kenny Corley is the owner and chief instructor of Corley's Concealed Carry and Personal Defense, co-owner of American Martial Arts, UFAF, Krav Maga Force, Florida, and a USCCA certified training counselor with a long list of advanced certifications in firearms, defensive tactics, and personal protection. He's a Marine Corps veteran, a retired Florida corrections officer, and former law enforcement defensive tactics instructor and certified UFAF Krav Maga instructor, and a recipient of the Chuck Norris UFAF Sheepdog Award. Mr. Ken has spent decades teaching civilians, law enforcement, and martial artists how to stay safe, stay prepared, and stay disciplined. Today, we're diving into his journey, his philosophy, and the lessons he's learned training thousands of students in the realities of personal defense. Mr. Ken is also joined by Mr. Josh. I welcome you both to the show. Josh, we didn't get as much time to do our research on you this morning, but I know you are very qualified as well. So maybe we can start by you telling us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Josh, and then we can jump on in after that.
Okay. Well, I started my martial arts journey in 1994 in American Kempo, the Ed Parker system. Went through all the way to 2000, 2000, right before 2000, right at 2011 in the Ed Parker system, and was involved in a horrific car crash that prevented me from traveling to where I was going to get my black belt. I started a new system of Kempo. It was the Paul Mills system, which is a black belt under Mr. Parker in his own association at IKKA. And I worked under Mr. Rick Brumby for about 7 years, right at COVID. And I received my third degree at that point in time. So I've been an American Kempo guy for the longest time. I started studying with Mr. Stephen Hammersley on the UFAF Krav Maga in the past 2 years. I think it's 3. And since then, I've been kind of integrating Krav Maga and American Kempo together.
Now, Josh is also one of the chief tactical weapons instructors for the Chuck Norris founded UFAF. So we're both in charge of their weapons category.
Yes, sir.
So, and a little story with the firearms. Ken had come to me about 2019, right before COVID. It was probably 2017, and when he saw my abilities in teaching martial arts, he had asked me if I ever wanted to teach in firearms. I shot almost every day. So I had the basics and skills. So I went through the USCCA's firearm instructors course, and at that point in time became a firearms instructor under Ken. And I believe in internship. So it wasn't just one and done on the instructorship, and then I asked him if I could stay and if he could mentor me in the firearms training so I could be as good as he was in instruction. So that takes me from my martial arts journey, mainly in Kempo. Just started Krav Maga recently, and I've been a firearms instructor since right around 2017.
I really love that you brought in the internship part of that. I feel like that's such a huge thing. I live in a college town, and I've met a lot of the college students recently who I feel like are maybe missing that component when it comes to skill building. It's like, well, I took the class and I figured it out, and now I've got the paper or the certificate or whatever it is. So that means I learned it, and we're good to go. And I just admire that dedication to say, I took the class, but I think I want to kind of live in this for a little bit, and I want to continue to make sure that I'm constantly honing that skill. So,
and he rocks it too. I'm really proud of him for what he does.
As you know, in most martial arts, once you receive your black belt, that just means that's the start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when you're getting your your instructorship, you may have a lot of qualifications, but you don't have a lot of qualifications in teaching. You may be able to qualify and get a keyhole size, quarter size grouping, but it doesn't mean that you can take your skills and give them to someone else.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yes,
like
sir.
that whole internship idea too, because it shows your seriousness in your approach to martial arts. And that's something that struck me from the moment I met you at the Universal Martial Arts Hall of Fame. That's how we all met.
Mm.
Um, I remember you needed somebody for your self-defense
Yeah.
performance, which was fantastic, by the way. Really blew
Thank you.
everyone away. But I remember you kind of going through your requirements and talking about levels of force and all this kind of stuff. And I just remember thinking, this guy is very serious. He's
Mm.
very serious about the way he's approaching this. And I guess my first question to you guys is, and I've kind of got the same sense from Mr. Ken as well. You guys both seem to be very serious about martial arts, and I think that's why you guys work well together.
Mm.
Um, Now, it's a good thing because, firearms training is something you want to be serious about. If you take it flippantly, you can get somebody hurt, killed. So, what are your thoughts on the sort of the other firearms training that's going on out there? Is it taken seriously enough?
Firearms training is definitely taken serious enough because people have to reach out for firearms training. Like Florida, we don't require training to carry a firearm. Constitutional states don't require, or permitless states don't require any training at all to carry firearms. So the people that we train actually sought us out for training.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Mm.
the difference between what Ken and I do and a lot of the firearms instruction that's out there, and this is not talking bad about anybody, it's just what the industry is kind of looking at and going for is tactical.
Yeah.
We're not
Can you unpack
Navy
that a little bit?
SEALs. What's that?
Can you unpack that a little bit? That's a
Okay.
great
Well,
term.
so
I've never heard it before.
tactical, we look at and we have a lot of admiration for our military, and we have a lot of admiration for our police force. We're civilians. So
Mm.
what a military person can do in a military setting and what a police officer can do in a policing situation is different what a civilian can do. The civilian has to worry about the moral, ethical, the legal, and the financial repercussions for using their
Yes,
firearms.
absolutely.
So when we teach, we have to have all of that in mind that we're not military, we're not police officers. So we don't go forward unless we are seeking cover or seeking an exit, where a lot of the firearms instruction these days is emulating the military. Now, as an American citizen, we have a responsibility to know how to use our rifle and so on. That is a responsibility that we have as Americans. But if you're a civilian and you go forward with a rifle, pistol, and so on, you have to really explain yourself that you are in fear of great bodily injury or death if you were going forward.
Let's go further with that and
Okay.
talk about when you carry a firearm. One of the things we teach people, when you carry a firearm, your whole personality is going to change. You're going to become a more polite person, a better person to be around, simply because you're more situationally aware and you definitely avoid the conflict. You don't want to go hands-on when you're carrying a fire. You want to walk away, or if it comes up, you may have to use that firearm. But you do not want to get into a hands-on physical altercation while you're wearing a firearm. You're not a cop. You don't know if that bad guy has a partner. You don't know if you're going to be disabled or your firearm taken. Absolutely do not go hands-on unless you're ambushed when you're carrying a firearm.
And Ken and I, we really go, and when we're teaching, especially those that are coming to us for training are responsible.
Yes.
Those that do not have the training, it's kind of worrisome because once they put on that firearm, you don't have any special policing skills. You don't have any other rights besides the ones you already had to protect yourself. And some people, when they do put on a firearm, they feel that they have some sort of power, and really you have less.
Less.
Yeah.
And
This
knowing
is
what to say and what not to say. When you put that firearm on, when you're accosted, or you have to use that firearm, now you have entered the criminal justice. You have entered the system. You are the victim. You're a witness. You're probably the person who called 911. You're your first responder. Nobody's going to get you out of trouble but you. But you have decisions to make. Well, what are you going to do? So that puts you on the jury, the judge and the jury, and the executioner roles. Also, if you have to use that firearm, you play every role of the criminal justice system when you put on a firearm. You have the potential of having to be every one of those hats.
Now, when we're working with the martial arts, legally, we talk about the moral, the ethics, the legal and financial. So when we're talking about the moral and ethical, as martial arts instructors, we try to instill that into our students. Morals are pretty much what is given to you as a child by your parents. Ethics are taught to you by your social structure, which can be your martial arts class and your instructor. The ethics of how to use your martial arts. Now, when you're working with the law in Florida, at least, you can use legal force against unlawful force.
Yes.
That legal force can match the unlawful force. So unlawful force, the definition, an assault, which is a threat, or battery, which is the actual hands-on. Now you can use that legal force, and the legal force is being able to go against that, which push back, a punch, a kick, or so on. But it can turn into deadly force, and the law is different on deadly force. So once you have your firearm on you, there's deadly force that's involved.
Yes.
So you have to think about, okay, I have a firearm involved. Now there is the thought process that I'm only going to engage if my life is in danger, because now I have the ability to use deadly force.
You can deal out death. You're carrying an instrument where you make a decision that you can deal out death, and that's irreplaceable, irreversible.
So when we're teaching, there's instances that you can, if your gun jams completely, but you should have a secondary weapon. If you have your primary, you should have your secondary. If those don't work, then you can go to hands-on, but you can still use your firearm as a weapon because it's a big hunk of metal.
Right.
So being able to learn and train your martial arts to utilize that chunk of metal. But your secondary is one of the most important things, whether it's a knife, another gun, a Kubotan or something else. Your secondary, but your primary is what is supposed to get you out of all problems. You should be looking at the Cooper's rules of color code awareness. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but yellow, we should be living in the yellow. And to explain, white is in a status of not paying attention to anything. You're oblivious. You're on your phone. They
completely unaware
of what's going on. And they call it Facebook because everybody's on the phone looking at Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And they're oblivious to a criminal that's looking for that. Yellow is you're observant. When you're in the room, you're paying attention to what's going on. You pay attention to the exits. You pay attention to an exit strategy. Not that you're that you're paranoid, but you're just aware of what's going on.
You look at seating arrangements. When you walk into a restaurant, do you sit with your back to the door? Do you look at the exits? Do you see where are the exits to get out? Where's the bathroom? Is there an exit back there through the kitchen? I want to know everything about the place when I go in. I'm going to take a quick glance around. I'm going to know more with a glance than most people will know studying.
So we should live in the yellow. Orange.
Yes.
Orange is you're observant about what's going on and you recognize that something's happening. And it may be something that's going to escalate further or not, but you formulate your strategy of what you're going to do. Am I going to leave? If it gets closer, what do I do? And you have your game plan beforehand. Red, it actually happens, and you're in the situation where you have to execute your plan. So whether that's hands-on, whether that's with your firearm, depends on what you have on you. But if you formulated your strategy in orange, you should be able to maybe get away, avoid the situation. As a martial artist, I'm sure that your students know, you teach, that the best fight that you get in is not the one that you were in, you left. you've conquered it because you're not there. So those are the things that we kind of live by and teach when we're dealing with a firearm is to avoid it at all costs.
Avoid it. And then how to react to it when it comes, what to say and what not to say. There's a big difference in saying, hey, stop right there. Don't come any closer. I'm afraid of you. And then if they come any closer, maybe, hey, stop, stay back. Don't make me shoot you. Call and then holler to people to call 911. We had a 9th degree black belt recently, had to shoot somebody a week after he took my instructor course. Talk about somebody had a hard time. Why couldn't he handle himself, right?
He had a firearm on him.
He had a firearm on him. Do you want to go hands-on with a firearm on? I mean, this
What happens if you get knocked down and now that firearm is loose and you have to fight for that firearm, fight for your life.
Yeah. Now his, let's say his partner jumps in also, 2-on-1 justifies deadly force. You get in a fight and a partner jumps in, you have every right to shoot him.
So we have the ethics that we really teach them when we get to our students. We try to, there's some classes, and unfortunately all you need, and it's part of the Second Amendment and restrictions, but a lot of the classes that are there, people go and the only thing that they know is the CCW class, the concealed carry. That's all that they know. And they get their CCW license and they're right out there on the road, right there out in the public. Well, there's other classes, handgun basics, mastering the draw, defensive shooting fundamentals,
learning
movement, all these other training that most people don't understand or don't want to go through. They want to be a ninja, but they don't want to learn how to be a ninja.
Yeah. Right. And some of the biggest ones are rules of engagement. Like, okay, we teach PROV. PROV, you don't retreat. You take it to it. We believe in preemptive strikes. We believe in preemptive actions. That doesn't go well with a firearm.
Not with the legal implications.
No. When you're talking about self-defense, when going hands-on, you can advance on a person. You can take it to them.
That's that legal force.
That's that legal force. Now, you never want to advance on a threat with a firearm, because if you have to use that firearm, how are you going to claim self-defense? Self-defense, you're in fear of your life. You're afraid you're going to die. Why are you advancing on a threat that can kill you? You must not have been afraid. You're going to have some legal repercussions when you advance on deadly force.
You have to articulate it.
Yes, you do.
So can I jump in here and ask, this is all...
Yes.
I appreciate you both sharing these stories and this information and, Cooper's color code, especially for the listeners who are not familiar with, any of these things. Okay. A lot of this, even for me, I don't have a lot of experience with firearms. I've been to a shooting range maybe twice in my life. Okay. And so this conversation for me is just very informative. And it's something that, just like anything, I think when you don't understand it, you can fear it, right? And just hearing the way that both of you, Mr. Ken and Mr. Josh, are talking about carrying a firearm and how, maybe I'm trying to think of how best to say this. You had mentioned a little ago. You mentioned the feeling of power, right, that some people might get, and how instead you say, no, you should feel maybe limited. You should feel like you were just talking about those different realms of, like, if you're focused on what you can do with this weapon, you're not in the right mindset, right? You're not in the right mindset. You should be focused on what is everything that needs to happen before.
Yes, absolutely. Your situational awareness and your conflict avoidance. Those are the first things that we teach, is situational awareness and conflict avoidance. Before we even talk about guns, we have a whole section of our classroom. We deal a lot of time on that, because we want you to stay out of jail. We don't want you to just survive the encounter. We want you to survive the aftermath of that encounter, which includes getting arrested, getting booked in, an attorney, watch that mouth. You don't want to say, hey, stop, stay back, or I'll blow your head off. What if you accidentally hit him in the head? A headshot's intentional to kill.
You executed him.
You executed him. Don't use words like kill. Step back or I'll kill you. Well, that's a side effect of getting shot, is dying. So you better watch your mouth when you have a gun out, because every word you said carries a lot of weight.
You may have a justified shoot. It might be justified, but the legal realm will take place. You depending on the law enforcement agency, you will be detained, maybe handcuffed. You may be brought to the jail. Now you have to defend yourself. You have to pay for an attorney. We're not salesmen, but we do recommend that that you have some sort of insurance when you carry your firearm. But that might not be enough. A defense, a criminal defense, which just is trying to make you innocent, could be up to $100,000 to $200,000. I don't know about you, but most people don't have that in their bank account just to put up. So now you're having to put up your home. You're having to financial decisions, worry, and these are all on a justified shoot.
Yeah.
So when we teach, we also, that's one of the 4 items that we're teaching, the 5, moral, ethical, legal, financial. Those 4, we're really going, is it worth it? Is it worth it to get involved? And and Ken's story is, and I don't know if you're going to be going into it later, but Ken's story goes even further about getting involved in a situation.
Minding your own business. Minding your own. Not your business. You have no business being
a better witness for the police than getting involved necessarily. The reaction time of a police officer in the city is between 6 to 8 minutes.
6 to 8 minutes.
So you, on your personal self-defense, you have 6 to 8 minutes that you're by yourself. Now, you may have a situation where you have somebody that's in need of defense of their lives. But now that you've gotten involved, what does that mean? And I know at some point in time, you'll probably discuss Ken's story, but are you going to get involved or be a better witness, call the police, be able to pay attention to what color the clothes that they're wearing, what type they are, what this physical descriptions that you can, and be an extremely good witness, videotape, getting involved. That's your moral compass that's affecting you. But also you have to understand what implications does that put you in.
And I want to talk about that a little bit. Do y'all know my story? Have y'all read my story on my Facebook page or?
No, share it with us. We'd love to hear.
This is the place. This is the place.
We want to hear the stories.
Well, my story's told at all the police academies around here. I'm have one of the rarest assaults that there is for a law enforcement, a retaliation assault and battery. I had a person arrested. I intervened in a defensive shooting. Well, I intervened in a beating of a neighbor. I thought my neighbor was getting beat to death, which he was. And there was gunplay came out. I ended up getting hurt. They ended up getting arrested. And they went to jail. I made the mistake of going hands-on physical altercation with firearms. Ended up getting my nose broke, knocked through a glass door out onto the sidewalk. They got arrested, taken to jail. And no bond, because it was a very violent crime. But 45 days later, after they had their arraignment, they were released pending trial. Well, they came back that evening and they got me. They ambushed me. They stalked me. They ambushed and abducted me, beat me to death almost. Threw me in a dumpster and shot me in the head. And
oh my God.
And I've been teaching violent encounters in their aftermath and self-defense now for 50 years since that incident.
We have the opportunity, go on Ken's Facebook page, that Ken Corley's Concealed.
Yeah, go on to Corley's Concealed Carry, and it's in my featured stories in the top.
Now it has lessons even with just martial arts of, making a decision to get involved. Yes, we teach that moral to protect. Yes. But understand when you get involved, that person might not be a good person that you're defending. You don't know the situation.
He was a drug dealer.
A drug dealer beating up a drug dealer.
I defended my neighbor who I didn't know was a drug dealer. His dealers came to collect. and he pulled a gun on them. They snatched him out the door, threw him down the stairs. One of them ran down, got the gun. The other one jumped up on top of him, beating him to death. Here's when I pulled out of the parking lot and come driving by. Okay. I didn't know anything about the situation. So if you don't know everything about a situation, don't jump in on it. It could be cops arresting somebody. It could be a good guy finally overpowered a bad guy, and now he's on top and has his gun, and you're going to shoot the good guy. And we teach people, mind your own business. Don't intervene on another person's behalf unless they're one of your loved ones.
And you know the situation.
And you know everything about that situation because you can die. Do you have anything worth dying over?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Yeah. My family.
My family.
Other than your family, do you have anything worth dying over? No. So you have nothing worth killing over either, right? So think about that.
So
really think about that.
We make these decisions in our classes. There's an example that the USCCA uses, and it's called the shark tank. And if you were to take your wallet and throw it into a tank with the sharks, would you jump in and go after it? You ask that same question. If your child was pushed into that tank with the sharks, would you go in after it? Yes, you would. So there's things that are not worth your life, and that there are things that are worth your life, but there are critical decisions that you have to make.
Yeah. But you can die jumping into any encounter. Does your wife need you more than that person that you're thinking about helping? Does his wife need him? Absolutely. You're number one on your list. You take care of yourself. When you talk about self-defense and self-protection, what's the first word in that? Self. Okay. It's not for you to go out and be a vigilante. Your USCCA insurance, that's not vigilante workman's comp. You can't go. It's not. It's really not. These are all things that are super important. You carry a gun for self-defense only. Don't intervene in another person's stuff unless you want to die.
And as a martial arts instructor, it's helped me to translate that same impetus and importance to my students of, is it worth it? Are we entering the monkey dance where we're, puffing up our chest and beating our chest and bumping up? Is it an ego? Or are you in fear of your life? It's an ego. It's something that we can walk away from. You're right, man. I'm sorry. You might not have been wrong, but you had that verbal judo. You de-escalated. You walked away. But we have a collection of self-defense techniques that we just practice. We love it. And we just, man, I can't wait to use it. But as you further in your journey in martial arts, it becomes less and less and less.
Walk away.
Because you know what you can do and what can happen to you.
I really like what you guys are saying about, walking away only for self-defense. And it reminds me of everything I learned from my masters in the martial arts, using martial arts only as a last resort for self-defense. And I think it's really important. It's something that inside of the modern mixed martial arts era, there's not as much talk about that, I feel like, as there was back in the kind of blood and guts karate era that I kind of grew up in Taekwondo and karate. And I think it's really important to remember. I mean, certainly for firearms, this is super critical, but I think it's also important for open hand stuff as well. Because as you start developing your skills, you're going to have this tendency to want to handle things physically. And, when you pick up a gun, I'm sure it gives you this great sense of power, And the same thing is true as you develop your martial skills. You can sort of gain this confidence, which is a good thing to some level, but it can also be a nefarious thing if you use it to intimidate other people, to puff your chest out, to kind of walk around like you're this tough guy. And I want my question to you guys is: do you feel like your sentiments on firearms training are as widely accepted by other people who are wielding firearms as you would like?
It's something that happens to you inside. Every student I have says, I realize what you said now, Kent, about becoming a nicer person and less combative and conflictive because I'm carrying a firearm.
Well, I think also it depends on your instructor.
It depends on your instructor. You got a tactical guy that wants to teach you how to go out there and, do
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the cool stuff. I don't want anybody to know you have a gun. When that gun comes out, it needs to be
Right.
processed. Like, you
It's a
carry it for a
surprise.
reason. And that's the only reason that gun should ever come out or anybody know you have it.
The competition, I think that affects in a good way and in a bad way, depending on the instructor.
Mm-hmm.
The instructor has everything to do because we're teaching, we're teaching students from when they're little, even to adults,
Mm.
to be a peaceable man or a peaceable woman. To be a peaceable man or woman, you have to be capable of great violence.
Yeah.
So we teach that. But if that instructor is not teaching to be peaceable, then it has everything to do with the type of man or woman that young one turns out to be, or the attitude that a person has when they have a firearm or their hands. So it is extremely important that the instructor has that sense of being peaceful. That's one of the things that I believe in is before you teach upper level black belt information, you judge the character of the student.
Mhm.
And at a certain point in time, if the attitude of the student is in such a manner that you notice those things, you may not give them that information. Because as an instructor, you're responsible for what type of student you produce.
Mm-hmm. And the type of student you produce is going to be based on the type of classes you have. Like, I'm never going to teach anybody how to clear rooms, how to go through a house from room to room and do it. You come home and your door's open. No, you stay out, call the cops. That's what they get paid for.
You got
There's
6 to 8 minutes.
nothing worth dying over in your house. Why do you want to go in there and find a bad guy? Don't go looking for trouble because you're probably going to.
Yes, sir.
I live by that.
Yeah. No, I love what you guys have been talking about. Everything from the color codes to, using it only as a way of self-defense and as a last resort. Kind of going back to those color codes, which that was the first time I've heard of those, and that's really cool. But it reminds me of an exercise.
Jeff Cooper.
You-
Jeff Cooper came up with those color
Jeff
codes, and
Cooper?
he's a Marine, and he formulated those color codes for the Marines to have a environmental awareness.
Like Saving Private Ryan. They didn't know what they had in store for them until those doors flew open in the back.
Sure.
The color codes of awareness would have told them where they were. Were you in white, yellow, red, or orange or red? You would have known, but then you probably would have curled up.
Yeah. It's a great articulation of something that I think we all kind of know as martial artists. Even from the very beginning of our training, I often muse with my students because when they first start, they're like, sir, it's weird. I never really thought about where I was or how I was standing or where the exits were until I started doing martial arts. And now that's all I can think about. I run through endless scenarios of how to defend myself. And I think it's just sort of part of the training. And when you're going, unless you've done some martial arts training, you can be just kind of blissfully unaware. And that's why I like, I was thinking, why code white or why white instead of green? But the thing is I feel like it's almost like you're totally checked out,
Yes.
if you haven't done any martial arts training, you just like don't even know where to begin with defending yourself. You're very disembodied. It reminds me, not to get too long-winded about this, but the story, we have a cabin up Vermont. That's where we run our retreat. And my brother's girlfriend at the time was up there hanging out with us. And these two big mastiffs come running up the path all alone. And there's a guy, we can see him very far away, kind of coming up behind them. And they're running at like a kind of a breakneck pace. And my brother's girlfriend just runs up, drops to her knees, and throws her arms open. And at the same time she's doing this, my brother and I are like tensing, getting ready, like we're gonna have to fight potentially two mastiffs with our bare hands. Like that's what's going through our mind. And so we're trying to position ourselves in front of her as this is all happening. Now, thankfully, they just come up and they lick her face and she's all, oh, you're so cute, blah, blah, blah. But these are unknown mastiffs, not leashed, running through the woods by themselves.
Right.
And
Right.
we had to have this sort of
Yeah.
intervention afterwards. We're like, what was going through your mind? Aren't you worried they were gonna like rip your face off? And she's like, oh no, they're so
Right.
sweet, like, oh, they wouldn't do
Oh,
anything to me.
wow.
I'm
Yeah. She
like,
needs to change that attitude. And I'll tell you, we have recently had 2 deaths by stray dog. In
Oh,
fact,
oh yeah.
we had 2 people in the last week mauled to death by dogs locally.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
crazy.
horrible.
But
Yes, it
so
is.
there's like I think that's a one problem we have in our society is too many people are in that sort of code white. And then what I
Hmm.
was trying to kind of articulate before is like maybe I know this is kind of a perversion or not a perversion, but a kind of twist of what you guys were talking about for code orange. But I feel like some people are like stuck in code orange too. Like they're just almost like too engaged, too hyper aggressive.
Paranoid.
Reminds me of
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
was when I was a teenager in high school, a lot of my buddies knew I did martial arts, and they'd be like, let's go pick a fight over there with these guys, in the bowling alley. We could take them. This kind of mindset. It's
Hmm.
just, it's not the way of the martial arts. And I remember even at a young age trying to tell my friends like that's not the way. But it's sometimes hard when you're kind of in that testosterone moment to be able to have the ability to separate yourself from that ego trip.
Mm.
It is. But see, I grew up in a small redneck town. And we, I shouldn't even admit this, but
No,
when we would learn something, we'd want to go try it out.
there's a minute.
And believe me, I've learned not everything works. I've had my butt handed to me a couple times,
Sir.
but I don't recommend that for people. You can edit that.
No, no, no. I think you're not alone. I think every young man not every young man, but a lot of young men have that, propensity, and it's coming from a
Hmm.
place of it's not necessarily coming from a bad place, but it's just a lack of maturity in
Yeah,
thinking
and
about these
that's exactly what it
situations.
You
was.
listen to soldiers that have
Yeah.
before they went to war, and they were all gung ho about, yeah, I'm gonna, seek glory and this, that, and the other thing. And then they come back, and they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. When we watch movies and we watch, movies, video games that the kids watch, it's pushed in that this is so glamorous,
Yes.
um, that it's that's some of the warning not to envy the man of violence. Don't
Mm.
envy him,
Mm.
but when you look at if anybody has scriptures, Timothy chopped the ear off the Roman soldier, so he knew what to do
Yep.
against a Roman soldier, but it wasn't that he didn't have skills.
Mm.
He
So
could have killed him
he could have killed him
easily.
easily.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of being able to understand what violence is, and that has everything to do with a mentor and a teacher, especially for a young man. And that's what martial arts is so good for young people. A good father figure is good for a young man
Mm.
and young woman. I come from, I can describe that as being a man. A woman has the same issues to be able to be brought up properly. But if it all starts with a male figure
It does.
for that.
It's so interesting. I'm on the board of my local chamber of commerce, and we do a little clay shoot once a year. And I go out there, and I got all these people from all over town, businessmen and stuff. And the way they're talking about shooting, I went and killed 20 hogs yesterday with my machine gun. I was flying on my Apache helicopter, and just the way they talk about life and the way they kind of joke about blowing things up and stuff. It's just to
Yep.
me, from my position as like a lifelong martial artist, it's just kind of crude.
Well,
And
that's not
I think
us.
a lot
Yep.
of people need what you have to teach,
Mm.
is what I'm kind of getting to.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just the gun, it's like the zen behind the gun and how
Yes.
to, implement it. And that's maybe the harder lesson for people to learn. Anyone can pick up a weapon and learn how to shoot it, but not everyone's gonna be worthy of picking up that weapon, in my mind.
Oh, it's not
Well,
hard. Anybody can draw a gun and pull a trigger, point it and pull a trigger. Shooting a gun isn't hard, but doing it properly, evicting, knowing when and where, the rules of engagement. Are you going to go to jail afterwards? If you don't know something, probably.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is something that might be a little controversial, but when we teach young ones and their weapons forms, what are they doing? You know,
Oh,
being
come on,
responsible.
decapitating 10-year-olds, doing.
Yeah,
Oh, I know. I just like, golly, dang.
they're there with two comments crossing each other, and they have no clue what you just taught them to do. Yeah, it looks really cool, and it scores points
Yeah.
in tournament.
It does. Wow. Well, you just disemboweled somebody. They don't know what this stuff is. They need to know, man.
So, but
That's such a.
the
Oh, I sorry. Keep going.
go ahead. These are
No,
things
that,
as far as responsibly teaching our students what they're doing, and why they're doing it. And
yeah, that.
we might teach them how to use the weapons, but are we teaching them the responsibility when you grab a weapon in their hands, because it is a weapon,
Yeah.
the sanctity and the responsibility that you have when you pick up that weapon.
The repercussions are huge.
Hmm.
You
Absolutely.
can't take it back once you've ended somebody's life.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah,
Let's
that's
go to a different level. We teach other stuff too. What about if you're in a fight and losing a fight?
okay.
We taught at ILEFI, the International Association of Law Enforcement Firearms Instructors. We taught a death class. We thought we were going to be thrown out. This is a class that we taught that was for officers or civilians who have found themselves in a deadly encounter and they're losing the fight.
They're losing the fight.
How do you
Mm.
turn this person's off switch?
Now that would be a high level
High
black
level.
belt stuff.
Yes.
Because now you're getting into, what do you do now?
The 12 lethal points that you go to, how to access your backup weapon, which
the use of a snub nose revolver.
Yes, use of a knife, a dirk, anything. We teach all of that, not just.
But that goes beyond the civilian.
Yes.
But some of that stuff is of civilian, because now you're in a fight for your life.
Fight for your life. You got both hands busy hanging on to somebody. How do you access your weapon? Or if a hand goes to your weapon, we teach weapon retention. I'm a Gracie instructor also, specific to law enforcement, weapon retention and immediate control. If you're going to carry a weapon, you better know how to hang on to it, how to prevent another person from taking it from you.
Mhm.
It's all goes together, not just the concealed carry class. There is so much to learn. There's so much to learn. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, at the beginning of our conversation, Mr. Josh, I believe you said something along the lines of certified doesn't mean qualified. And we've been hovering
Exactly.
around this idea throughout this whole conversation. And I was wondering if you could speak a little more to that idea, because as soon as you said it, it rang true to me. And I was like, wow, that seems to be a pretty big problem in society right now, where people confuse certification with qualification.
Yeah, it's really meaningful. When we're looking at certified and we look at it, we have, and this is an example of our law enforcement. Our law enforcement have such a weighty responsibility. They have to go out and they have to handle the the worst of the worst, right? And when they're going into it, how much training do they have? They have to qualify once a year, right? And that's the only time that they actually, unless they pay for it themselves. Some departments may have twice a year, but once a year to go on the range, and they shoot from on the range.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of distance that's involved. And they have to qualify in such a range, basically like a plate.
Yeah, they have a 6-inch circle they have to shoot into, and it's all static shooting.
Now, 85% of their violent encounters that they have to use their firearm on is when they're trying to handcuff. So why are they training on the range at distance so much when the 85% of their encounters are that they have to use their firearm? So we're looking at training and using the police officers as an example is because they're, out of everyone, they're going to be the ones that are involved in the violent encounters more than the civilian.
Mm.
So when you look at your training in defensive shooting, right? When you're training, what is best in your training? If you only have a limited amount of training, what are you going to do for your training? Are you going to do something and train something that's not as percentage wise going to be the issues that you're going to be dealing with? Or do you focus on what is most likely going to happen and when? Obviously, you have to have the full spectrum. Same thing with the civilian. If our civilians are going to the range and they're shooting at distance and they're prone and they're in their isosceles stance and they're shooting pew, 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 and I got this grouping that's right here, does that prepare them at all for a self-defense situation?
A sudden violent encounter 3 to 9 feet from you that's going to last 3 to 5 seconds. Are you prepared for that with your training?
Oh, I got my silhouette. I'm really good.
Yeah, I can stand here like this at 5 yards, 10, 15, 45 feet also, and sit here and I can shoot and flank targets all day long. But what about when you throw some dynamic movements in there? What your adrenaline is up.
Can you draw your firearm?
Yes, you have to be able to access your firearm. If you're carrying concealed, you have to clear clothing to access your firearm.
So the question that we have is, are we certified or are we qualified? Qualified. Now, there's a difference. That's in training as far as a student is concerned. Going to the instructor, are we certified or qualified? When, and I'm not sure with your system, but I'm sure it's the same because it comes from the traditional. When you get your first belt, your first black belt, you're basically an assistant instructor. You know the curriculum, but now you're in the midst of helping the instructor teach. And as you go from first to second, now in the American Kempo, the first degree is a junior instructor, second degree is an associate, and then a third is a head instructor, and then beyond that it goes into professorship and so on. But as you learn, there's not only learning how to kick, punch, and poke, right? You're learning how to teach. So now you become, you're certified as a black belt. I know the curriculum, right? But you haven't been qualified to teach yet. And that's my belief when I sought, after my instructorship, my qualification, I hit what I was supposed to hit within the requirements. I took the course and I did teach backs and so on, but I was interested in being qualified. I knew that I needed better skills in being able to fess what I know, to be able to reach people, to reach their heart, and be able to affect. And that's as an instructor becoming certified and qualified. As a student, when we're certified, I can pick up a gun and I can shoot here, but am I qualified? Am I able to protect myself?
Mm-hmm.
There's on both spectrums, as a student and as an instructor, there's some major things that people that they don't think about. But as the instructor, you have to impress that upon. It's not about money and about getting more money. It's about producing a better student, producing a better instructor.
And I recommend everybody become a firearms instructor. I have an awesome instructor class. We teach all the learning models and the teaching models. We teach you so many different ways to teach people that if they're not learning in this one, maybe you need to switch up to another mode.
Yeah, there's different, and that was what I was impressed with the USCCA's instructorship program, is they really went in depth on how people learn. Some people are tactile; they have to learn by touch. Other people, you can just tell them, and others you have to actually physically and work with them and explain. There's different ways of learning, and as an instructor, you're responsible to figure out how that person learns and adjust your teaching ability to that particular student. It's not one size fit all. And we find that out as martial arts instructor when we're dealing with our students. The old school ways was, this is how you do it. And if you don't like it, then there's the door. A little bit newer way is just trying to find out how that student learns. Both have their advantages. Mimic motion or understood motion.
Well, guys, we've taken, a good portion of your morning, and we really appreciate you coming on. A
Oh, are
lot of,
we done?
Oh,
Oh man, we can talk all day. I
oh, I'm
love talking.
sure.
we're both long-winded. Both long-winded.
We literally live what we do.
Yeah, it's
I mean, this
passion.
is all I do.
It's passion.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I could talk all day as well, and we might have to have you back on to talk some more.
We would
Um,
love to.
yes,
Yeah.
sir.
But I'm going to ask you, go to my page, read my page, go to my Corley's concealed carry page. It's only a year old again. I keep getting hacked. The police tell me I have a high value page for some reason. I mean, there's people in other countries that use my profile and pretend to be me to teach classes.
Mm.
It makes me sick, but there's nothing I can do about it.
But there's his story that's on there that explains a lot. And the philosophy, and that's what I migrated to Ken to continue is he has the same philosophy that I do, and has encouraged it.
That's
And I
awesome.
got a great partner, man. I saw something in Josh that I'm like, and I could have chose anybody to be my partner. I've been looking to do something for a long time, and finally, told my wife, I think I found the right person,
Mm.
and yeah, sure enough.
Yes, sir.
It's awesome.
Seafood.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys a little bit better. I hope to have you back on the show sometime in the future. Mr. Trader, can you take us home?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Josh and Mr. Ken, for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and your mission with us today. Both of your dedication to training, service, and protecting others is something our entire community can learn from. For everybody listening, if you want to train with Mr. Ken or learn more about his programs and Mr. Josh, you can check out Corley's Concealed Carry and Personal Defense, as well as American Martial Arts UFAF Krav Maga Force Florida. As always, thank you for joining us on the Oneway Podcast. Let's keep training, keep growing, and keep walking the path. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed that podcast, please consider liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel, as well as hitting the notification bell.